Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast where we are sharing our experiences of buying land and building our BRANDIT office in the Metaverse. This morning we have Jesper joining us from BRANDIT and Armin from the Armin Bar. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Carrie. Good morning, Armin.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. So last week we were discussing why we have taken this move, and today we're getting more into the details. So why don't we start with you, Jesper, and talk about how your week's been and what steps you've covered over the past 7 days on this project.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. So the week has been quite busy. It's been a very interesting week with a lot of decisions that we needed to take, new ways of working, finding out what we need here. So it's been a very, very interesting week, very unusual week. And I think we'll get a bit further into the more, you can say, to the details of it. But this week have been very busy, very interesting to sum it up, and also very unusual, I would call it.
Okay, so you've been mainly focusing on finalizing the design of the office, and what challenges have you found in this stage, and what have you found easier?
Yeah, so with the design of the office, so we Armin gave us a task and say now we have you can say a piece of land, so we need to find out what to put on that land, and you can do whatever you can imagine, and that's always difficult when you can do whatever you want, because there can be so many different things. Mm-hmm. So the way we decided to do it was that we started internally to do a brainstorm about what could be done and what should we do, etc. And during that brainstorm, we also talked about involving our network and our clients, because it's also very interesting to get some ideas from our network and clients. And thanks to everyone that have contributed with great ideas and crazy ideas, we really appreciate that. And then, of course, when you have so many things that you want to do and to build, you need to find out what's actually making sense, what's also, you can say, streamlined with your business, etc. And I think that process has been very difficult, because you want to do something that is bold, that is out of the box, that is new, but at the same time, it needs to fit your brand strategy. So that have been, I think, where we have been facing challenges and difficulties to actually find out what to do.
Okay, and so from like what you found fun and easy, you would say it's receiving all the interesting ideas and contributions for the office.
Yeah, definitely. We have had everything from a penguin in the forest to, as you can say, a skydiving place to many. We talked a lot about animals. Okay. So people like animals and want to have a lot of animals in there and so on. So yeah, many interesting things. But also what's also interesting is that how do we connect people and how do we get people on board? So we actually, I think we took quite a lot of the ideas we got and tried to actually get them implemented. So it's been very useful for us.
Great, sounds interesting. And Armin, from your perspective, what would you say the biggest challenges have been for you and your team, and also what the easier points have been?
Well, easier point always is dealing with the BRANDIT team. That's like one of the best clients. But the challenges, I would say, mostly how to filter all those brilliant ideas and fun ideas that they were there, filter in a way that put them together, what can go with what in a way that it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, still we have that quote unquote bold statement from the BRANDIT perspective, and also but have something that would make sense and it would make it easier and fun for the users to go around the metaverse of BRANDIT.
I see, that makes sense. And yes, but back to you. You mentioned that you asked people to submit suggestions on the social channels. What would you say were the strangest and funniest suggestions you received?
I think the penguin in the forest was quite interesting. Yeah. Because a penguin in the forest is not the normal sight. Then we also had nightclub. There was also people who wanted a nightclub, which is also a very good idea.
Yeah.
But and we like to also to host some good parties at BRANDIT. So, but also interesting actually how people are thinking like that. Then we had a lot of different ideas to the avatar that we're going to use. One thing was a penguin, but we had a lot of cartoon characters that people suggested. Interesting enough is that some of these suggestions that came would be a clear IP infringement if we did it. So,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to see how people are thinking about that. So, so I think that's probably one of the things. Then we have had waterfalls, we have had beaches, So if that is how the future office is going to look like in the real world, then I think it's going to be quite fun to go to the office.
Absolutely. And Armin, also same question to you. What has been the kind of strangest and funniest things you've been asked to incorporate, either from a BRANDIT perspective or with some of the other clients that you work with?
In general, what I see, and similar to what also Jesper before was mentioning, that a lot of people were asking for animals to be there. We see that even with other clients, they like to see animals roaming around the office, even though it doesn't realistically doesn't make sense. You would not have a giraffe walking around your office.
Unfortunately.
Or like having as the hostess to your office, which is very if your office is like a forest jungle style, as a hostess to welcome the people in the office, you would not consider having a penguin. But this is the also actually at the same time the beauty of it in a sense that it shows us and it allows us to think a little bit differently from what we normally think in the real world, considering that there are no limitations over there. There are limitations, but at least the limitations are not as much as we have it in the real world. Which again, if we as a team, in this case I'm talking about us working with the BRANDIT as a whole, we try to bring that mindset also on the use cases of what we can do in the metaverse of BRANDIT. That would be the game changer, because this is still a very new technology. And still, I'm sure there are many, we can think about it based on our background, your background, come up with some ideas and some use cases in the office. But I'm very sure that there are many other use cases that we can't think of it even as of now. And we need to start implementing that by implementing that mindset into that, by just doing it and see what we can see out of it. It's not an easy process, because if we start looking at what has been done in the real world, or like some random other metaverses, we're still it means that we're just trying to, how can I say it? We're trying to optimize the past, if I will. But what we are trying to do, it's not to optimize the past, but create the future. And if we want to create the future, we should not think of how we used to think in the past. So we need to, that shift of a mindset, I think that's the biggest challenge.
Following on from that, Armin, is there anything that you can't include, or let's say you wouldn't recommend your clients to include?
That's a very good question. Maybe just let me give you an example. For example, BRANDIT, on the side of the jungle, we're trying to build a basketball court, for example. But the basketball court, as of now, it's gonna be there, but you won't be able to play basketball, because that becomes like the like a video game.
Yeah.
Which is gonna have it's gonna be more complicated, which at this stage I don't think it's something that would add that much of value to the office. But in the future, we can think of implementing that functionality as well.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like it's been an interesting week. What have you got planned for next week?
Yeah, so right now we're more into the design phase of things, as Armin said, that we're looking into what can be done and not done. So one of the things that's to also jump a bit back to what Armin just said here, but we, for example, also want to include a speaker's corner, right? So where we want to invite different speakers, because one thing that is big in BRANDIT is education. We host a lot of educational events for our clients, not necessarily to do with IP, but in every aspects of life. And that's something we really want to do in our new Metaverse office as well. The challenge right now is that you cannot see other avatars. So you can go in and listen to a speaker, but you cannot communicate. But that's something we expect that will change later this year. So right now we are talking about the design. We're discussing priorities, because we also need to prioritize quite hard what do we want to develop first stage, and that's probably more on Armin's and his team side right now than on ours. We had to do the tough job last week. Now it's more on Armin's side, and then the ball will be thrown back to us, and then we have to work hard again for the next step. But that's what we expect for the next week coming up from our side. Armin, what is from your side?
Optimizing the filtering that we're doing on the suggestions, have the first drafts of the designs to be able to share it with you guys, and I'm sure we're gonna have a few back and forth in the next few weeks before we go to full production.
I think also one of the key takeaways that I want to share with the listeners, what is very important to think about when we talk about the office in the Metaverse, is that one thing is that when you do the design, you need to make sure it's also according to your brand strategy, to the values you have as a company. It's good with a lot of crazy ideas, but they still need to fit into the overall picture of your company. Having said that, we also talking a lot about how can we attract people to the office, because it's such a new universe. So we need to attract people in one way or the other. And we had a very good suggestion from Tiffany regarding you can say indoor skydiving or wind turbine, where you can do that. And Tiffany loved to skydive, and she said, I would love to be the teacher if you create such one. And that could be one idea to get, you can say, an external part to come in and be the teacher if it's possible to do things like that. So that person also invite the person's network into our office. So I think that's also one of the key things that we are trying to find out. How can we engage as many people as possible to create a platform where people are regularly coming to our office, maybe not for a trademark, domain name, or brand protection, but coming to the office because we educate them, we have the right people and network, and we have fun there. And that's really something we are trying to find out. I think that is one of the key takeaways for at least me for the last week, is to find out how can we engage and how to actually attract users to the BRANDIT office, so people start getting this, you can say, familiar with our brand and the services we're delivering, but in a very soft way.
Right, thank you. That sounds super interesting, and it'll be great to see how.
Thank you, Jesper.
Well, thank you everyone for your time today, and I hope the listeners have found it helpful and interesting, and we look forward to welcoming you back on our next podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Armin.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.